Good morning. Today we're going to be talking about some of the elements of driver's education. How can we make driver's education better? I'm a driver's ed instructor. I've been on the platform for about 2 years. So today we're going to talk about the driving skills report. How do you know you're a good driver? What do you need to do to encourage others to let you know you're a good driver? When you go through a driver's education program, you want to do your best to let other drivers know that, hey, I'm a safe driver. So today I will be giving you some tips and tricks to help you become a safe driver. You want to correctly respond to traffic controls. What does this mean? If you see a yellow light coming up, you want to slow down and take your time, right? You never want to run a yellow light. I'm not talking about slamming your brakes. I'm talking about making good decisions to be safe. If you slam your brakes, you're possibly going to get rear-ended. If you get comfortable running yellow lights, you're going to end up developing bad habits of running lights. This could result in injury. This could result in you receiving a ticket. Let's talk about driving in adverse conditions. We know it's a beautiful, warm day, but also with warm days come dangers. Some of these dangers are sunlight in your eyes, right? If you have a lot of sunlight in your eyes, it's going to be really hard for you to see. You're going to have glare coming off of the windows. You're going to have glare coming off the hood of your car. It's going to be hard for you to see stop signs. It's going to be harder for you to see the traffic lights. So you want to have some glasses with you to block some of that light. Rain is also very tricky too because it makes the ground very slick. The first 3 to 5 minutes of rain on the ground does make it difficult to stop. So you want to reduce your speed. You want to have a comfortable grip on the steering wheel. Let's talk about snow. Snow is always beautiful, but snow creates another challenging situation for beginning drivers. So you want to increase your following distance. You never want to slam the brake really hard. You want to ease into the braking. You want to give yourself increased time to analyze the situation. You want to be as smooth as you can on the brakes. You want to be as smooth as you can on steering input, because when you have good steering input, you are comfortable in the car. Let's talk about driving on the highway, 2 and 4 lane roads. On the highway, it's up to 55 miles an hour. That's going to be one of your DMV test questions. So in DMV test questions, they're giving you driving situations. And in driving situations, you want to pick the best answer. Not necessarily the right answer, but the best answer for the driving situation. And on highway speeds, it's up to 55 miles an hour. You will encounter speeds that are 45 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour. So you want to increase your awareness. You want to be extra safe to allow you to do your best work when you're out there on the road. Next, let's talk about driving in moderate in-town suburban traffic. We know this is stop and go traffic. We know from experience, I'm talking from the driver's perspective to help you as a beginning driver, you got to go slower in neighborhoods. You have to take your time. And when you take your time, you're going to see and analyze more information. This is going to help you become a better driver and understand the hazards in a neighborhood. Neighborhoods are the most dangerous place. Why? You tend to let down your guard. And if you let down your guard, you won't be aware of little kids playing. You won't be aware of people driving through the neighborhood, people riding bikes. And this is what they do. They drive, they ride their bikes. So you really have to be patient and allow yourself to digest this information, to understand the dynamics of neighborhoods, to understand the dynamics of communities, okay? Let's talk about driving on an expressway up to 70 miles an hour. This is really super important. When you are merging on a freeway, and that's the challenge, you've got to learn to get your speed up on the ramp. You've got to learn to accelerate, and once you learn to accelerate smoothly, you'll blend in the traffic. If you are cutting off cars, veering to the right, then you're not ready to merge. Real merging takes practice. You have to practice merging. If you're popping on, encourage your friends to share, encourage your friends to get on. We're talking about driver's education. How do you improve as a beginning driver? If you just recently have your permit or you just recently have your license, it takes up to 10 years to learn how to drive. It doesn't just stop once you get your permit and you stop learning. You have to continue to learn. And when you're at 70 miles an hour, there are 3 lanes. There's the right lane, there's the middle lane, and there's the left lane. Each of these 3 lanes have different elements, and you have to mentally be aware for it. So I'm going to take you through the process. When you first merge out, you're in that right lane. That's the slow lane. That's anywhere from, let's say the minimum speed is 55. You are going 55 miles an hour, which is fine. But now you're going to be dealing with trucks merging on, cars merging on. And that's kind of scary because they are trying to get up to speed. You don't want to run into them. You have the right of way. So you need to be able to merge out safely. You need to be able to be consistent. And when you're consistent out there on the roads, you will be more successful as you merge out because you'll learn to have space. You'll learn to keep space. So I say having space in front of you to adjust, keeping space behind you. So if you have to make a sudden movement, people behind you don't tailgate you, don't rear end you, and don't run into you. Let's talk about that middle lane. The middle lane is the lane I want you to get into. Why? Because I'm an instructor. If I was teaching all of you, I would say merge out smoothly, get into the first lane, then get into that second lane, right? And when you're in that second lane, you got to be up to 65, 70 miles an hour. You don't have to deal with people in the left lane going over 70 miles an hour. That is for the passing lane only. I don't recommend it as a beginning driver because you're going to have to go over speed. You're going to have a lot of people putting pressure on you to make that aggressive lane change. So that middle lane is the balance between the slow lane and the fast lane. It's smoother. You're going to be going 65 to about 70 miles an hour. You're going to have less chance of being cut off. And that's extremely important because we do not want you to get cut off. We want you to be super safe and consistent on the road. If you're consistent and safe on the road, you'll be able to deal with cars merging out, tires on the road, people merging out who are distracted. So these elements are always going on. Now let's talk about that left lane, right? That's only for the advanced driver. That is for drivers who are driving at a high rate of speed. It's for you to make a lane change, get to that left lane, pass that slower moving traffic, and then get back to the middle lane. Seeing the HTS, the Highway Transportation System, work properly is awesome. Why? Because you're going to have some great driving experiences. You're going to encourage other people to drive at a reasonable rate of speed. Because if you're driving super fast, people will drive super fast. Super fast is over 70 miles an hour. And things happen so fast. So as a beginner, you want to learn best practice. You want to talk to your caregiver, whether that's your mom, your dad, your older brother, your older sister. You want to try to get out on the road as many times as possible to develop a good skill set. Let's talk about exiting. You're velocitized. You've been traveling at a high rate of speed for a long time. Now you got to reduce your speed. You've got to go slow. You've got to take your time. And when you take your time, you're going to be able to digest and understand, wow, I got to go slower on that ramp because you don't want to lose control. And a lot of times these curves are clover leaves. A clover leaf is a curve and you have to go slow going into the curve. You have to go slow going out of the curve. So it's really easy for beginning drivers to lose control, but we want to encourage all drivers to have good control of their vehicle because it can be very overwhelming. Let's talk about changing lanes in traffic. That's always another challenge. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks. So if you have friends, encourage them to pop on, share this. Changing lanes and can be very overwhelming. Why? You've got to check your mirror. You got to use your turn signal and you got to look over your shoulder. This is my blind spot. This is my other blind spot. You have 4 blind spots, left side, right side, front, and back. So when you change lanes, there could be a car in your blind spot, and you can't just look in the mirror and say, hey, there's no car there. You're going to have to look over your shoulders, check your blind spot, and make that adjustment. If there's a car hiding in your blind spot, you can't change that lane. You've got to literally look over your shoulder momentarily, not too long, because the car will jerk out of the lane, and that's scary for all of us. So that's the next biggest thing, because I've been on road tests and I've seen drivers hesitate and lose points on that road test. Let's continue. Passing other vehicles, that's a challenge also. You can't exceed the speed limit. The speed limit's 70. You can't go over 70 to pass a vehicle. So either you're going to have to pass behind it and reduce your speed, mirror, turn signal, blind spot, and then come back to understand how you need to change that lane. And when you change that lane, you're going to have to either accelerate or reduce your speed. And the more that you see people doing this, you've got to learn, hey, I got to keep my speed up. I got to continue doing my best work. If this is bringing you value, share alike. I just want to encourage you to have best practice, and that's really important. Let's talk about stopping and accelerating smoothly. A lot of the beginning drivers will slam the brake, and when you slam the brake, you're going to end up jerking the vehicle, losing control. The same thing in a manual. In a manual, you're going to have to shift gears. And when you provide good content, people see the value in what you're providing. So I am driver's education. I've been on this platform for about 2 years and encouraging people to have best practice in driver's education. So when people see value, you really can't put a price on that, right? So let's talk about accelerating smoothly. If you slam the gas, you're going to end up jerking the vehicle, losing control, and then that's going to show your parent, your caregiver, your driver's ed instructor that you are out of balance. So you want to stay in balance. You want to have good control of your vehicle. You want to have total control of your vehicle. This is going to show your parents, wow, Johnny, you're ready to drive on your own. Susan, you're ready to drive on your own, because that's your goal. You want to be able to drive on your own. And that's where you really will learn a lot more, when you drive on your own. Okay. This is bringing you value. Drop a like, drop a comment. Let's talk about negotiating intersections. This is always very confusing. I dropped a video about four-way stops. You need to take a look at that. The first car to get there is the first car to go. You got to have a complete stop for 3 seconds. You just remain motionless. You stop behind the stop line. Then after you stop, you look left, you look right, you look left, then you go. Now, I will explain to you how. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. Hey. So now that you understand about the four-way stops, now let's add another vehicle. If two cars come together at the same time, the car on the right of you, okay, I'm sitting in a car, this is my left, this is my right. If we come together at the same time, the car on my right has the right of way. You got to continue to understand those rules. The right of way can be given also. Hey, how are you? So get ready for work, make that money. So it's important that you understand, love you too. It's important that you understand about best practice. And this is where a lot of beginning drivers fail the road test, struggle in segment 1 because they don't understand about four-way stops. Yielding. Yielding means you come up, you slow down almost to a stop. If you're yielding, the main road has the right of way. You can't see right now, but I'm at a stop. I'm parked. I have a stop sign. The crossroad does not. They have the right of way. You as a driver have to understand this. And if you're rolling stops, pulling past the stop line, you will end up making mistakes and then reducing your grade. Let's talk about turning. After you stop, you got to turn hand over hand. I know there's a lot of controversy, and I want to hear your comments on that, but there's no absolute way to turn the steering wheel. Good morning. There's no absolute way to turn the steering wheel. And what I need all of you to do is have a complete stop for 3 seconds. You look left, you look right, you look left. After you stop, it's called showing the car. You got to move up, and once it's clear, you turn into the nearest lane. Keep your turn as short as possible. What does this mean? If to the curb lane, if you turn wide, which a lot of beginning drivers do, hey, these are things you really need to listen to. These are things you need to share with your friends. If this is bringing you value, drop a like, drop a comment. Beginning drivers turn in 3 ways. They turn short, they go over the curb. They turn wide, they go in the wrong lane. Or they wobble between lanes. So you as a driver, you want to be consistent. If I was taking my permit and learning now, I would drive through my neighborhood, right? I would work on left turns, turning hand over hand in, turning hand over hand out. I would work on right turns, looking, checking, yielding. I would look ahead all the way down the street as far as possible to really see what's going on to help me analyze how should I drive. Should I be covering my brake? Should I just be looking? Should I be going real slow because there are little kids playing? So you have to know what's going on consistently every single day. Visual checks. Are you checking your mirror? Are you checking your speed? Are you checking, is your car out of gas, right? Is your car overheating? It's like now just left, you can't see it. I see a dog running, just flying. I'm not trying to get bitten, so I'm staying in the car. Or I'm allergic to bees, right? You have to always be aware of situations around you so you can keep space, because a lot of beginning drivers lose space. Let's talk about space management, the SEE process. The first S is for search. Are you searching? Are you looking? Are you looking ahead? Are you checking your mirror? Okay. What are you searching for? Cars, lights changing, people walk out in front of you, downtown areas, downtown Chicago, New York, Detroit, LA. No, I'm not saying Khloe Kardashian, but I like to, right? Those challenges, there's that wild dog running again. Those challenges are incredible. And you, as a driver, have to be aware of what's going on. And when you're aware of what's going on, you can make those changes to adapt your driving. And that's why you're watching my content, because you want to learn how to drive. I'm very passionate about driving. And I want you to learn. So when I take the time to create a 16-second, 20-second, minute clip, digest it, look at it, ask questions. I'm very social on the platform. Evaluate. What are you going to do? Are you going to slow down? Are you going to pick up speed? You know, this is one of the most important parts of evaluating your situation. Are you going to execute? Are you going to make those changes to execute safe driving practice, right? That is very, very important. Evaluate and then execute. Are you going to stop? Are you going to change a lane? Are you going to yield? Are you going to pull over to the side? You have to make a safe driving decision. And when you make safe driving decisions, you will be very successful. Let's talk about parking. We're going to talk about parallel parking. That seems to be the most challenging thing that beginning drivers look at. You got to line your car up. You got to turn the wheel all the way to the right till it locks. You're going to back in at a 45 angle. You have to be able to execute this. And once you back in at a 45-degree angle, you're going to turn your wheels back to the left. Once you back in, the rear of the car will go in. And when you turn back to the left, you will straighten the car out. I drop my foot out. We're size 14, so I measure. One thing that my daughter said, hey, you know, we need to work more on parking. So I asked my students, what do you need to work on? By far, the biggest thing is parking. You have to know how to park. You have to know how to make great maneuvers. And that is critical. Let's talk about backing up, and then we're going to wrap this up. You got to be able to back up in a straight line. So we go into school parking lots, and we practice backing up in a straight line. And when you back up in a straight line, you got to look over your shoulder, out of the back window. You're going to put your left hand to the top of the wheel. You have to have great speed control. And when you have great speed control and you back up, you got to be able to get those maneuvers. Guys and ladies, I hope this was helpul for you. If it brought you value today, drop a like, drop a comment. If you have any questions, just message me. I want to say thank you so much. I do really appreciate you. And just leave some comments. Bye, guys.